Welcome, everyone, to the Wednesday morning series. Kristin Snowden is joining me again today. She always has a wealth of information. I share her videos often. Excited to have her every time she's here. And she's got a great topic. So, Kristin, what do you have for us today?
All right, man, I hope it's great today. Let's see.
It's always good.
Um,
I share your videos like I share so I have a little hit list. There's a lot of yours that are on my hit list, of like, and I don't mean it like I always say, it's not like the mob. It's like these are the ones I keep sharing over and over again. So it's valuable content, no pressure, but thank you for being here.
Good.
So,
And so I'll dive into before I forget, if I forget to mention this, I do have a small betrayed partners group that has a few spots left. It's actually rare.
okay.
Usually my small betrayed partners groups fill up, but it starts next Tuesday, and I think there's about 3 spots left. If anybody is interested in joining, you can go to my website, kristinsnowden.com. But
I
just
will
letting
put
you know
that in
that
the
before I
chat as
forget.
well so that you can click on that.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Kristin Snowden. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist in California and life coach. And I focus on providing webinars and resources to namely betrayed partners, but betrayed partners of sex, love, porn addiction, infidelity, and other forms of betrayal. I really like to hone in to helping you navigate the extreme crisis that ensues after you uncover these unknown addictions and betrayals. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to kind of give you the really uh, short summary of really important to-do items within the first 60 to 180 days of uncovering these unknown addictions. Because again, no one ever gets the handbook on how to manage the madness. Some of us never even knew this kind of stuff existed. You don't know where to go, who to ask for help, how to seek help, what even is the language for what the heck is going on? What did I just find on my partner's computer, on his or her phone? What did he or she just disclose to me? How serious is this? And will I ever get through this or to the other side of this,
Mhm.
either as a couple intact or on my own? So I'm just going to give you the important kind of acute responses that are necessary in the first 60 to 180 days. This will be like a roadmap for stability, sanity, and survival after betrayal. So, first and foremost, these are the moments immediately after usually accidentally uncovering something. You got a phone call where someone disclosed something to you, something happened at your partner's work that has led to him or her having to disclose some very serious things that he's been doing. You opened up the phone, you opened up a computer, or unfortunately, maybe your children found something out and they've disclosed something to you. These are all ways that I have learned betrayed partners find out or uncover these unknown behaviors, this secret life that your your addict or betraying partner has been engaging in for months, years, or beyond. This will look like finding out that there are multiple affairs. They are maybe visiting inappropriate websites or massage parlors. They will use paid sex, prostitutes, and beyond that. There will be secret money spent. There will be secret trips, secret phones, secret worlds that you uncover. And so the first thing that I want you to remember is that in this moment, you're in the metaphorical emergency room. This is where we are just trying to triage for what the most serious bleeding and serious wounds are in the moment. This is not in the first 60 to 180 days. This is not where you're going to be doing reconstructive surgery and you're going to be cleaning up the scars and repairing for long term. This is going to be, you're going to stop the bleeding. You're going to try to stabilize the damage that's done and then start assessing, okay, how bad is this? What are the multiple surgeries and procedures that we have to do from here on out to heal and get to the results we're looking for? So remember that the first, 60 to 180 days is just stopping the bleeding and how bad is this situation. Also, there has to be an understanding that this is trauma, that you are 100% in a full trauma state. Um, that is going to be something you're gonna have to remind yourself for many reasons to appreciate the fact that your mind, brain, and body have been completely hijacked by your survival system, and that it's often in this fight, flight, freeze, fawning mode, trying to figure out, what is the threat? How do I defend myself? How do I protect myself, my family? And then it'll swing over to another mechanism of shame and how did I miss this? And am I pathetic for wanting to stay? So these are all elements that will cause you to behave and respond and exist in a state that you're not familiar with. This is like this body and this brain and this mind will feel like something just took over you. And that is because of the trauma that you're going through in this here and now moment. And I have so many videos that will help you understand in much more detail about the traumatic experience that your mind, body, physical state, emotional state are all in right now. The more you can educate yourself, the more you can bring it to your executive functioning and you can kind of talk to yourself, forgive yourself, figure out steps to manage it. We'll talk more about that too. And then the other big part of stabilization is the figuring out how many elements are actually involved in this situation. You might have just found out about um, pornography use that you didn't know of. But is there maybe also substance use going on? Is there secret financial transactions that you're unaware of? This is figuring out is there anything, are there multi levels of deceit and betrayal that are going on? It is also a very common, while I'm talking about this, I'm going to say it's very common once you find out about an initial betrayal, an inappropriate exchange on the phone, for you to start going into what we call seeking safety, diving in, looking up everything and going everywhere. I always say a lot of my betrayed partners could now get jobs at the CIA or FBI because they've become advanced, very skilled investigators, combing through credit card statements, bank statements, internet, phone. This is just all in pursuit of them trying to figure out what are we really talking about here? How many layers of deceit, how many months, years, how many levels of betrayal are we talking about here? The other thing is, as we're figuring out these multi levels of betrayal, we need to start assessing or pulling together this understanding or framework of, are we talking about, is this a dark season in this person's life? Were there particular stressors in this immediate scenario, the past 6 months, the past year or so, that triggered a slew of poor coping skills? Increasing their drinking, having an affair, but it can still be kind of categorized into a period of time that's very specific and triggers that are very specific versus assessing a broader, bigger problem that is a protracted, chronic pattern of sexually acting out, creating this double life, protecting this double life, experiencing severe consequences because of this double life. And again, I'm going to talking about this, but that's why you have to bring professionals into this. But the first steps are, we're in an emergency room, let's stop the bleeding. We're in extreme trauma, and how bad is this? All right, so here's a list of essential to-do items within the first 6 months or so. I tell every betrayed partner this, and that is one of the reasons why sexandrelationshiphealing.com exists, why we thank God for Tammy Vero Health, who always answers the phone and responds to email, is that we have to find support. The betrayed partners did not know this was going to be in their story. They have nowhere to go. They don't know who to talk to about this. And they are just searching for someone to help them, someone who can help put words and language to what the heck they just uncovered and what they're dealing with. So I always encourage betrayed partners. I get email from them and I send them links and resources. I also always send them to people like Tammy, who can assess, does your partner need to go to treatment? Where are the groups that he or she can go to get help? Where are the groups that you can start going to start getting help? I always encourage everybody to not be going to like a run-of-the-mill women's group or men's group. You need to go to specialized treatment. People who have suffered and struggled in a similar way are dealing with similar issues. And for this topic, it tends to be described as sex, love, porn addiction, compulsive sexual behavior issues, and the betrayed partners who are married to them or in relationship with them. That's kind of the language for it. So we're talking about addiction recovery, betrayal trauma. Those are the kind of things that if you start searching them on the internet, you start finding Seeking Integrity's program, my website, and other people who specialize in this. It's, I want you to know that while I first and foremost want you to find specialized support, you are obviously welcome to figure out who you want to invite into your circle, uh, that is your friends and family. But I want you to understand that most of them are not going to be capable of understanding what's going on and all the multi levels of trauma and addiction recovery, what all of that includes. But they also will most likely struggle seeing you in a trauma state. And their instincts are going to be like, well, let's just get her out of this state. Let's just divorce the guy, just leave the relationship. Obviously he or she's a monster, and that's a natural response when you see someone you care about in a trauma state, is you just want to remove the pain. Friends might also be so triggered by realizing, oh my gosh, I knew your partner. I trusted this partner. This is so scary that one day you could think that this person is this kind of person and then uncover all these secrets in this double life that he or she's been living behind all of our backs. And that is so scary and so vulnerable for your friends and family to hear, that a response, a protective response that they would have to that vulnerability is to other you, to kind of write a story in their head. Well, what did you do wrong? Maybe you're from this really messed up childhood that made you be attracted to somebody like this? Or how have you been raised or brought up in a certain way that you would maybe ignore all the red flags? I mean, to fast forward, the truth is that none of that is accurate, that your partner was highly invested in lying to you, gaslighting you, manipulating you in order to make sure that you didn't find out about this whole double life that he or she was living. But your friends and family who are not trained in this field don't understand that. And so you could feel secondarily traumatized by responses that your friends and family give you that are born from ignorance and naivety about this disease, this problem, this mental health issue. So just keep that in mind. So, Tammy's always great at giving you referrals for professionals in your area or people who will do telehealth or remote connections who are trauma informed. They're familiar with assessing addiction. Is it addiction or is it infidelity? How many multi-layers are there involved in this? They know how to ask the right questions and screen for what's going on here. They can educate you and help you understand what is addiction recovery, define what substance use addiction is, process or behavioral addictions are, and what is betrayal trauma. And most importantly, how do you get through all of it? How do you heal it? What are the paths and protocols to help you and your partner get what you're desperately looking for, which is answers, stability, sobriety, and healing. Some of those currently trained therapists tend to be CSAT, certified sex addiction therapists, and APSATs, they're an association of people who work with partners or are also trained in assessing and working with sex addiction and betrayed partners of sex addicts. So again, there's directories that can guide you. Now, ideally, in a perfect world, most of us in this field would say, okay, your metaphorical home just exploded, and we're trying to assess the damage and slowly start cleaning everything up. The most ideal scenario would be figuring out, is this a scenario where your addict betraying partner should be going to treatment? And usually that depends. How long have these behaviors been going on? How many different layers? I mean, are we talking about substance use issues, severe sexual acting out behaviors, lots of attempts to heal and be better, or swearing that they're never going to do it again, and they continue to act out, continue to not change their behaviors? Those all might be information we need as professionals to say, yeah, I think we need to try a higher level of care, like treatment, going to a seeking integrity, going to an intensive outpatient program, and letting you know what those all look like. So, but aside from that, ideally, what treatment would look like upon discovery is getting your addict betrayer partner into a therapist that specializes in this, getting you into your own individual therapy where uh, someone specializes in betrayal trauma, having a couples therapist, but just remember, this does not mean a marital therapist. It's a therapist who will see both of you as a couple, who understands that the first 6 months at the very least is not a time where we talk at all about, what went wrong in the marriage. Because by the way, what happened in the marriage has nothing to do with the fact that your addict betraying partner went out and used such damaging, devastating, value contradicting choices and coping skills to manage life, and chose to hide and manipulate and gaslight during that whole process. So that's completely separate from any kind of marital issues that might have come up. So I will say, yes, sure, let's find a couples therapist, but it's for a different reason initially. At first, it's to just get both of you educated, have it be another source of accountability. Are you staying sober? Are you going to meetings? Are you going to your own therapist? What's going on in the house? Do we need to create rules of engagement? Do we need to make, are there any kind of safety issues popping up? And so they're dealing with, again, kind of emergency room, stop the bleeding, provide education and resources in the moment. And then I also encourage all therapists involved to all sign releases so that they can all coordinate and work with each other. Because remember, one of the biggest problems that we're dealing with is that your addict betrayer is a massive liar. And, as we call it clinically, a poor historian. And so we need to have collateral information from betrayed partners. And we also need to be sharing what's going on. Was there a relapse? No secrets. Aside from professional mental health interventions like treatment and therapists, I am a huge believer in group work. I do not believe betrayed partners can do this alone, and I definitely know for a fact addicts cannot heal and recover alone. They require groups, and again, of people who have suffered and struggled in a similar way so they can call them out on their stuff, keep them accountable. For addicts and betrayers, there's usually in the 12-step program, there's a sponsor structure, right? Finding someone who has recovery in these problems that I've suffered with. And I'm going to touch base with that sponsor regularly. And that person is going to help me get to the other side. Because my best thinking got me here time and time again, despite how much I didn't want to hurt my family, how much I didn't want to break the laws, how much I swore to myself I would never do this again or never do that again. I kept ending up here over and over again. So I need to seek out help from one or many more people and live in consultation with them and feel the pain of accountability, feel the pain of them calling me on my distorted thinking and my justifications and my rationalizations, and slowly move towards a place where I have more empathy, more compassion, and I can learn how to stay sober. That's generally how it works and why they need to get their butts to group. For betrayed partners, living in this environment of being with addicts for so many years, they've been so invalidated. They've had instincts, they've had intuition, they felt like things were off. They've been hurt and wanted to bring up things and talk about stuff that they're struggling with or they don't understand. And their addict partner, all in an effort of keeping them off the scent and, getting them to not ask hard questions and have hard conversations, have just ritually dismissed them, just completely dismissed and invalidated everything that the betrayed partner has felt or asserted or wanted to say. So, because of that, betrayed partners often need to get into a group of other betrayed partners and start talking about boundaries. Gosh, what do I need to feel safe? What is a reasonable request? What do I do when my addict partner relapses again? What's a reasonable consequence? Yes, they can be talking to professionals about this, but it's also helpful on a day-to-day basis to be checking in during these crisis moments. So let's go back to a little bit about during these initial, several months, is that the addict needs to start working on developing empathy and compassion, lower their defensiveness and compartmentalization, start exploring their acting out patterns and like what triggers it and what's involved. And like I said, this multi-layer stuff involved. The betrayed partner can find groups like addiction recovery type groups that support people who love addicts. ACA has been recommended, Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional Families. Al-Anon, that's for anybody who loves or is in relationship with addicts. There's free online support communities. There's some like Wheaton Glen is a free online support community. Trauma groups. I have betrayed partners groups. Seeking or sex and relationship
Seeking
healing.com
integrity
has
and sex.
groups. There's
It's
several on
complicated.
there. Yes, we know these are important, so we try to offer them. And then let's talk about when you're in these groups and when you're with these professionals, the betrayed partner can start assessing what are boundaries, what are safety boundaries that are reasonable. Now I know that my partner's struggling in this way. These are not meant to control or punish the addict. They are meant to put guardrails up around the fact that, again, the addict's best thinking, their best attempt to operate in life was to go out and do these insanity behaviors over and over and over again, despite how many promises they made, despite their values and goals, despite knowing that it's going to harm their family and loved ones, they did it anyway. So guardrails and accountability structure and boundaries are all required. And it usually takes a village of people to manage that. So some examples of boundaries that get set, and again, this is all unique and is going to be figured out between you and your professionals and figuring out what helps you feel safe. And it's also customized to like what your partner's acting out patterns and behaviors tended to be. We need that information to develop boundaries. But to just give some general examples, it would be full digital transparency, computers and phones, maybe some internet firewalls. Do you need to sleep in separate rooms, or actually does he or she need to leave the home, or just have in-house separation? What does that look like? What are the rules involved with that? Mandatory attendance in 12-step meetings, SAA, so Sex Addicts Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, Sex and Porn Addicts Anonymous, NA, Narcotics Anonymous. There's so many, and everybody likes different ones for different reasons. Maybe there's a requirement that you or the other person just refrain from substance use because it just only heightens the problems. Maybe there might be a requirement of no physical touch between you and that person because of safety reasons. STD testing. And again, the most important one, in my opinion, is stating clearly What will the consequences be if you find out that your addict has relapsed again? Because, like I said, we can sometimes start with this lower level of care where it's like, okay, you're going to therapy, I'm going to therapy, they're in groups. But what if your partner keeps lying and keeps acting out? Then it might be time to go to a seeking integrity. Then it might be time to, go do a little bit more intense work to see what's going on. Why can't they stay sober? Another important set of things to keep in mind are that, again, your body is in a constant day-to-day, moment-to-moment state of trauma, meaning your body constantly is feeling like it is being threatened because it is living near or around the perpetrator, the uncertainty, your nervous system is very generalized. So all it just knows is something out there is trying to kill me, and how do I protect myself? So do protect any ritual or thing that you've found helps you down regulate. Again, getting some space from the perpetrator, talking to people, going to therapy, doing other somatic regulatory type of things. And again, on my website, I have what we call like an up and down menu of regulation items. I always say your nervous system is like your fingerprint. It is unique to you. So what works to up and down regulate your nervous system is different than mine. And once you get in this trauma crisis state, it unfortunately becomes your responsibility to start trying things to figure out what calms me. When can I find these little glimmers of down regulation or breaks to manage the constant state of stress that I'm in? Make sure that you prioritize sleeping, hydration, movement. Um, and if you're struggling with any of those things, I encourage you to talk to, again, professionals about helping to manage that. Now, here's a couple lists of try not to do the following, or, when you are proceeding, please do so with caution. Common pitfalls to just be aware of. And again, by the way, these pitfalls will probably all be things that you will experience. It is not, I'm failing. It is not, the ship is going down. This is what happens when we're in trauma. You're not alone, but I'm naming it for you so that you can say, oh yeah, Kristin said this was going to happen. I need to be more mindful and pay attention of this because this might not be moving me in the direction I want to go down. So first, acknowledge because you're in this trauma state, your coping skills will flounder. You will scream and say things that you didn't mean to say. You will break things that you didn't realize. You're not a property destroyer, but you will break things in moments of heightened stress. Um, you will forget things. You will, again, just think things. Think about death to people. And I wish pain on people and things that, again, you're just like, this isn't me. This isn't who I am as a person. But just know these are your trauma parts that are all kind of standing up. If you can imagine them like your little army of protectors that are so scared that this horrible thing happened to you. They have weapons in hand and they are out there just trying to figure out where's the threat? How do I take it out? How do I protect you? And how do I stop this from happening again? So because of that, whether or not you have a substance use issue of any kind, I always encourage betrayed partners to avoid ingesting any kind of chemicals because again, your brain already as it is on fire. I want to mitigate all your environmental factors by again giving you the opportunity to not isolate, not be in a room, but get outside, physically move, maybe do the yoga, sing the songs, read the books, try your best to eat well, try your best to avoid substances. If needed for any of those things, like I said, you might need to get some psychotropic medication that you take temporarily or long term. That's something for you and your doctors to explore. And seek out your community, you know, other humans who have suffered and struggled, sharing your story, offering support to others who are in struggle. That can be an up and down regulator as well. Um, Be careful of your need to get a full disclosure and get every single detail from your partner. That is 100% common. Of course, you're going to want to know all the details of what happened. But the problem with that is that because your addict partner did everything so compartmentalized with so much entitlement and rationalization, and often sometimes not even being fully present and aware of what he or she is doing, your initial efforts to get a full disclosure will often not be successful, meaning there will be truly forgotten parts that he or she will remember in the future, or they're going to avoid huge chunks of information because, they'll tell themselves, oh, she can't handle it. Look at her. She's in such a fragile state. I'm not going to tell her this, or I'll tell her that, but not this. So you'll get what we call trickle truths. And you'll often get it in a way, you're also missing a huge piece of it, which is something that's important, which is understanding the context of why your partner did these behaviors, what was going on in their head, and how they're different now so that they're not going to do it anymore. That information is only going to come with extra time and work with their therapists and their sponsors and their, 12-step community. So, yes, we want to get you as professionals, we want to get betrayed partners all the information that they need to keep themselves safe, because that's what you were denied when you were, living with this person who is lying and gaslighting and manipulating you. But you're not going to be able to, within the first 60 days, get a full disclosure with executed in an empathetic way with your addict partner having context of understanding, well, I was having a hard time at work and so I did this, or I've never felt secure in this way so I did X, Y, and Z, or at some point in my childhood I learned that this was a great escape or numbing mechanism so I did X, Y, and Z this. You're not going to get that initially. That is something that takes time. So just that's a good reality check for you. I understand why you want all the information right now, completely reasonable, but those are the obstacles to getting that information. Another really important thing is for you to not be his or her main accountability source. It is so common for betrayed partners to want to control everything again because there's so much lack of safety. I only have so much control. This is so scary. But that will suck your soul dry even more than how dry your soul has been sucked. So that is why we have the therapists and the sponsors, is to be acting as accountability partners for your acting out addict partner. So they need to be talking to them regularly. We need to very clearly define what sobriety looks like. Usually we use the circle plan. We figure out his or her patterns, and we figure out slippery slope behaviors that are related to it, like every time he travels for business is when he would act out, right? All these things that help us get a picture of who this addict is and how his or her behaviors show up so that the sponsor and the therapist can be asking the right questions and acting as an accountability source for your partner. That's also, and talking about that kind of stuff in those couples therapy appointments can also be helpful as well. And most importantly, do not isolate. You cannot do this alone. I don't want you to do this alone. It is so much more. It is scary. I want to validate that you have been harmed and exploited by the person that you loved and trusted the most. So it seems so counterintuitive that the very next thing I should be doing is sharing my story with a bunch of strangers, and making myself vulnerable to these random people. However, my clinical experience is that's your only way out of this. You have to train your brain to realize that not everybody will lie and manipulate. Not everybody will be out there to harm you, to exploit your vulnerabilities. And the only way you can get that information is to go out and form these relationships. I know it sounds so counterintuitive to the protectionist parts of you, but that is what I see. All right. So finishing up, a few last things is Another part of this initial phase is managing all this relapse anxiety. Will he or she go out and do this again? Is he or she going out and doing this again? That's going to be the buzz of your brain all the time. Because again, it's so unsafe, and I am so unsafe, and life is so uncertain during this time period. So what is an important thing in these initial phases and bringing in these professionals is to define what protecting sobriety looks like. What is he or she supposed to be doing? Um, is there a plan to manage triggers and stressors? Who's the addict going to call? What will he or she do when there's been an argument or stressors at work, or some kind of difficult thing happen, or we're celebrating something, because celebrations can trigger
Mhm.
relapses. The addict is supposed to make very explicit promises and commitments to say, when I feel stressed, or every day at work, or when I'm coming home, I'm going to call my sponsor and give a breakdown. The whole point is that I've spent, my whole life as an addict, not, or breaking my promises and commitments, going against who I said I was going to be as a person, breaking values and goals, all in service of protecting this acting out behavior, this whole double life behind me. So now recovery is the opposite of that. I will make commitments and goals. Um, and also validating the hypervigilance that betrayed partners are going to be in. This isn't crazy paranoia. This is based on real lies, real trauma, real victimization and perpetration. And I just want you to have grace for yourself for that very common response. And one last thing, too, is the more people in your life that can help you manage all of these things, right? Your partner's sobriety and accountability structure, your, safety boundary setting, and your management of trauma symptoms, and your figuring out, what do I do today? What's next? How do I keep myself safe? The more you have in this village that are skilled or experienced or can offer you support, I believe the better off you're going to be. You cannot do this alone. So, a really quick summary of the roadmap forward from the moment of discovery is the first few months, it's all about defining sobriety, defining physical safety, defining safety boundaries, and moving to a more effective and productive way beyond trickle truths of, did you do this? Did you not? Were you lying? Are you lying? Did this just happen? Are you still talking to that person? Moving to a more productive, structure, safer way of getting through to the truth. Uh, the few months following that, it's about developing empathy and compassion on the addict side, feeling more stable in their sobriety. I like to say, too, in the first several months, addicts often will do the things for consequence avoidance, just to get you off their back, just to appease their workplace or stop you from saying you're going to leave or things like that. But then the several months after the crisis explodes, you hope that they're starting to do things because they want to be a better person, because they know the harm they've caused, the damage they've caused. And then after around month 6 or 7, if your partner's stable, if your partner's sober, if you feel safety and like you guys are moving towards recovery, that is when you can start assessing the viability of your relationship. Maybe even going into couples or marital stuff. Maybe. In closing, I want you to give yourself permission during these crisis-filled times to be angry and then sad and then feel abandoned and hurt. Wish that your partner might die, but then also miss them and grieve them and want them back desperately. Feel heartless and then so overwhelmed by emotion that you can't breathe. To swing between hopelessness to hopefulness. These are all common roller coasters that betrayed partners in crisis will get on and be on for many, many months. Give yourself permission to stay while you assess the situation, get more information. Give yourself permission to leave if and when you feel like you have to. Give yourself permission to not know the answer day to day. And that also reminds me to figure out if you need to talk to other professionals, right? Beyond mental health professionals. Do you need to gather more information about your financial situation? What are your legal rights? Talk to real estate agents for options. These are all things that are very helpful during this crisis-filled time. And I'll take questions now.
Yeah. And well, I want to, on the try not to tell everyone, because you talked about the isolation, and there's a lot of people that flat out isolate. You also, I'm sure, see the people that have told everyone because they want everyone to know, and particularly his parents or whatever, and it doesn't go well. And, and you can never take it back. People expecting that there will be, oh, if his parents know what he's been doing, they will, make him do something different or whatever. So that one invariably backfires on, on people. When you were talking about the couples, conjoint couples therapy can be super helpful, where each of your individual therapists are working for a period of time to help you guys navigate the space, because then they also get to see the two of you in real time. So what as you said, not a good historian, what a lying partner would be saying, and then what they're really doing in that session can be really helpful as well. And you talked about being a qualified therapist, and I'm really picky, and I do get a lot of emails of, Kristin suggested I reach out to you. I personalize those, and it isn't just, here's, oh, you asked for therapists, I'm going to give you a therapist. I'm going to give you a whole bunch of resources based on what you're sharing that could be useful for you. Always take what you need and leave the rest. And I don't refer to all therapists, even if they've got the letters behind their names, because I pay attention to what people are telling me, and
Right.
there are some that still work from a codependent lens, or there's a lot of stuff. So there are people that have had betrayal through therapists. So I'm going to help to the best of my ability provide resources that will be useful for you and healing for you. And this is always getting through. You don't magically get, it's like not poof all better. This is a journey, and we want to help on that. So um, okay. And then we'll get to there was something else, but let's get to questions. I'm a betrayed partner about 2 years post discovery, although he struggled with recovery and then subsequent betrayal and lies since then. He is now in a 12-step program, and we are both in therapy with CSETs, and things are improving. However, so the partner is struggling with daily triggers.
Yeah. Very common, because again, you just have years of evidence of this person is untrustworthy. And again, you have those little protective army of resources around you. I call them your protective parts that are hyper vigilant and looking for evidence why you shouldn't let this person in your space, that they're not safe, and want you to push him away, even if he's showing signs of being in recovery. And kind of letting yourself be reminded all the time that this was very dangerous. How do you make sure that you don't let this in again? So trauma triggers are a learning system. They're a system that hold on to really painful, scary stories or situations or experiences. They, super glue them to your brain so that it'll keep you in a constant state of kind of looking around and being careful and making sure you don't do a similar thing to put yourself in that level of threat. They also will drive you mad because they're not always accurate. They're very generalized. And they don't really care if you're, Kristin Snowden who wants to be a good mom, or a good friend, or someone who's empathetic and understanding. They don't care. They want you to be protected and safe. And if they need to build a giant wall up or make you a screaming, crying monster, then they're doing their job, right? So you need to acknowledge that it's a part of you that's getting triggered. And there's trauma interventions that are usually not talk therapy, or they're a combination of talk therapy. I've seen EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing, brain spotting, neurofeedback. There's something called emotional focus therapy, EFT, that those are all meant to integrate your narrative, your logical understanding of the traumas and how you viewed them and the stories you tell yourself around them, and also the nervous system wiring that gets tied into it. And it kind of can release the physiological triggers that happen. So I always say the goal is like you'll never forget what happened. You'll always remember what happened and it'll feel scary, but you're going to your goal is to lose that complete overwhelm, that physical overwhelm that feels so like it just like the memory of that and how scary it was and how overwhelming it was just swallows you whole. And those trauma treatments can help with that.
And here's your timeline. Like you're just like he's, if he hasn't been doing any of the work, you've been in that complete uncertainty for 2 years,
Hmm.
So it is not like, oh, we've been doing this for 2 years and he's really been doing the work. And so I'm still struggling with triggers. No, he's not done the work that will show you that he could be trusted. I've thrown some more things in the chat. Navigating 12 steps. Kristen mentioned, a few. I'm on the board of directors for SCA, Sexual Compulsives Anonymous, but find the healthy meetings. And we talk about, that in the myths. I also threw in real recovery. So if he is now in a 12-step plan, like just going to a 12-step plan, like, you're warming a seat. If he's really, like Kristen said, if he's working with a sponsor, he's working the steps, if he's really starting to engage, he's going to more than one meeting a week, then that would be part of a hopeful, but again, take care of you. I also threw Troy Love talks about attachment wounds. And this is a massive attachment wound, and his video, he has lots of them on our site too. But that could be useful for you at this moment as well. So I'm a betrayed partner, and I'm about two. Oops. it- Um. Wait. Another two
No, it
years
is. Yeah,
post.
it's.
Okay. Okay. Another 2 years. Oh, I was started reading. I thought, oh,
I
I'm
know.
okay. I'm a betrayed partner, and I'm about 2 years post discovery. Although he struggled with recovery. I guess it is the same. However, I'm struggling with daily triggers. She
Okay,
continued.
so they just
Oh,
said that. Yeah, so
reminders and
we answered
TVs.
that. She just
Okay.
added
Okay.
it to
Yes.
it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, it's similar. Is it best to have a polygraph after a formal therapeutic disclosure or before? Any advice on virtual formal therapeutic disclosures?
These polygraphs keep coming up, don't they?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And
I will only
I
say
did the
this.
research. Yeah.
Okay, I do not do full therapeutic disclosure, so I have a limited exposure to that process. However, I see hundreds and hundreds of betrayed partners in my groups, and they share their stories with me about their full therapeutic disclosures. For every betrayed partner that I've had that says it's been great, it was positive when we included the polygraph. It's been an accountability system for my husband. It's been helpful in helping me feel safe. Okay, for every one of those stories, I have a story of someone who said, my partner passed his polygraph, and then I found irrefutable evidence that he was definitely lying during that polygraph. Are there good polygraphers, bad polygraphers? What's the right kind? I don't freaking know. Does it bring you peace? Does it bring him accountability? Those are all things to explore, but take it, Tammy.
I will keep it short because we've got a lot of questions and I've talked about this a lot. I've done a lot of research. There's no protocol, there's no research, there's no efficacy. There's reasons why they're not used in a legal system. And people go, well, I believe in it. And then I'll know and then I'll feel safe. And that's I will feel safe, but they are they measure they don't measure honesty, they measure stress. And so if somebody is very good at lying and if not feeling anxious, they're going to pass. And the research, I will again keep it brief. The stuff that even the polygraph organization says, it's very skewed. Most people are not trained with this. It's a long thing. Yeah. Email me if you really want the stuff. You probably don't. Everybody gets a pick. I'm going to talk about the formal therapeutic disclosures via technology. If with all of these, is there a plan? What is the plan of how I would not want to do one with you guys sitting right next to each other, in the same room. Are you in two different locations? What is your safety plan around this? So if there's a really good plan with your qualified professionals to do it virtually, we figured out how to do this because we had to during COVID. People couldn't wait for years. So it can work really well if there's a really good plan. So, okay. All right. The next one is a two-parter. So let's go to I am the spouse of a betrayed partner who is SA. I have a discovery third time. Every time she has never gotten help and refuses to get professional help. Her family made it worse by minimizing her trauma, saying boys watch porn, so she blocked her own and my family. She is spending time on Chat GPT and Google looking at apartments and custody. How do I help her when I am the last person she trusts? We are not on talking terms. If we do, she usually is yelling at me for something. I've done my recovery work. Oh, I guess it's a three-part. Half-assed. Okay, and never did steps. Relapsed. Um, I'm going to interject. You can't relapse if you're not in recovery. Abstinence is just not doing the behavior. I have a CSAT now, and he wants to talk to her once or talk to a betrayed spouse. How do I help her? Most I've gotten from SLAA groups is to just focus on your recovery and being a good father and let her find her way. She's spiraling and isolated. We have anxious attachment issues. I am anxious attached. She is avoidant. So intimacy was also issue when sober. Do doesn't does the addict have the right to ask her to not yell or be respectful at least day to day? It's been 2 weeks. Should I discuss for therapeutic separation with my CSAT? In homes, we sleep separately, but we are still engaged. It looks hard to not see each other. She relies on me when she needs help with a baby, which I gladly do. Way lots here, and there's no way all of this will be answered in this. But Kristin, take your first stab. I'm going to go pull resources.
Yeah, thank you, because that's what Tammy does best. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, again, this is that delicate thing that you're a stranger to me. You gave a lot of detail, but I have to be careful because there's just so much more information out there that I just don't know. But I mean, the best thing you can do is all the things that I listed. If you are doing your groups or you're doing, your AA or your NA or SLAA or whatever, you have your sponsor, you're working your steps, you're now working with the CSAT, you're doing your circle plan and you're staying out of relapse mode. You have your accountability structure. Like you're saying, you're learning empathy and compassion so that you can respond to her in a more empathetic and compassionate way. She may not be in a place where she can receive that because you've lied and relapsed so many times. All you can kind of do is just show more in your behavior. You practice your values, you don't preach them. And maybe, yeah, you can offer sources. You can offer sexandrelationshiphealing.com information. You can offer stuff on my website, kristinsnowden.com. I would love for her to get in a group of betrayed partners so she doesn't feel so isolated and so alone. But yeah, I mean, you're not exactly the most ideal person to provide resources and help. And do you have the right to say, yeah, please don't scream at me or have, safety boundaries of your own? Sure. But also know there's extreme trauma and crisis going on. And yeah, maybe you need to talk to your CSAT for the safety of your family and the situation about in-home separation or actual separation. But yeah, I would try to get her some resources and see if she's willing to get some help from others. She doesn't have to do this alone.
So I threw a few therapeutic separation, even if it's in home. There is a process, there is a workbook, but you owned it. You are still not safe. You are still acting out. You said it's been 2 weeks. Big deal. She's been dealing with this like forever in that emotional roller coaster. So um, I did put the 12 steps. If I don't know how often you're going to SLAA, if you're doing 90 meetings in 90 days, great start. Great start, but like Kristen just talked about, the first 180 days, this is the chaos and crisis that she will be in, and you're at like 2 weeks, so yeah. While I agree with your SLA people, do your work. I say that like you focusing on her isn't like she doesn't even want to around that much right now. But it's also what you showing her that you're actually going to do something different this time. That's what recovery is about. We have a residential treatment program for guys that are really struggling and haven't done the work in a complete way. So happy to help you with that. Okay, so betrayed partner writing a year and a half since D-Day. 50 years married. Husband has developed his addiction past obje- objectification. I can normally say that word to stalking and becoming totally transfixed, standing blatantly gaping in full fantasy and dopamine collecting lust. Since discovery, he has started doing this behavior right in front of me, then denies, lies, and minimizes, adding to my traumatization. As you can imagine, this extremely damaging and unacceptable. He has been in a lot of recovery, some fake and some genuine, currently in another Dr. Eddie group. I don't go out in public with him anymore. He says he doesn't know why or how he can do such a thing. Question, what type of pathology am I dealing with and what might I expect in the future?
So I can't diagnose or assess someone I've
Yeah.
never met. But I can say these stories are common where again their acting out partner is not in recovery, first of all. They teach them things like, hey, it might be a habit for people to like just see someone who's in my attraction template. And just out of habit, I'll just, like you said, stand there gaping wide face, like not even hiding the fact that they are objectifying that person. But they are supposed to take steps to, alert, avert, affirm, notice, be mindful that they're doing these behaviors and change the response. Avert, don't look at them, affirm, that person is not there for my objectification. This is not who I am. Look over at my wife. There's supposed to be a system, like I said, what are they going to do when they get triggered? And the result, as I hear, is that you're not going into public with him. And I hear that that's a common story. You're not alone. Um, I can't tell you what type of pathology you're dealing with, but I can understand that until he's in recovery, why you wouldn't want to be in public with him. That doesn't feel safe. It's so hurtful, and you're just trying to protect yourself.
And I'm lean into the protection for yourself. We have lots of resources for partners. And I did put the information about treatment. He would not be a 14-day. We have 14, 21, or 28-day length of stay. He would not be a 14-day length of stay client. We've had guys well over 80 who have come to our residential treatment program to get the help because they want to change. One thing I wondered, and I'm not a medical doctor, but check if he's on medication. Not saying he is. There are some medications like Parkinson's medication, can really have an impact on behaviors like this. So it would be good to have, make sure you're looking at all areas of this. But yeah, and I love Dr. Eddie, but if he's working with him as a coach, he's not, he can't diagnose him either. But gosh, you guys have suffered long enough. Like I would really invite you to consider, expert residential treatment to get a foundation and understand what's really going on. You have time for one more?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, the one that's up is like it's not my expertise. It's more like a family
Okay.
law attorney.
Well, okay. So if SA, then we'll maybe do two more. If SA behavior involves occasional substance use, then our therapist required to disclose it if the court orders discovery. Will it affect custody of an addict? Should it be completely on? Should you be completely honest with your CSAT? Yes. Yes. And um uh as far as we don't know what state you're in. We don't, like, every state has
Yeah, I don't
different
know what state
laws.
you're in.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's legal.
Our therapists, we are only allowed to disclose if there is a, the specific threat to do harm to someone's own body or another person. I
Yes.
mean, there's a couple other things. If there's disclosure of like child pornography, that's just in California, or if there's been harm to a disabled or elderly person, or child. So those are the reasons why a therapist would have to disclose information. But yeah, I would talk to a family law attorney.
Yes. And we did, I'll pull the information. Should I say or should I go and add the legal stuff on it too? So, and it has Kristen's, which I give out all the time about should I say or should. So one more.
Yeah, sure.
Is it okay?
Yes.
Hello, betrayed partner. I'm very staggered. Disclosure happened 30 days ago. I feel our couples therapist may have jumped right into stage two recovery type discussion. Harvey's emotional needs, love busters, questionnaires. Is there a way to discern between stabilization couples work versus the therapy work that should begin later? What we are doing now has made me feel like we skipped over the disclosure impact aspect of what has happened. How might I best bring this up? I had a catch when I was reading that, like his emotional needs and love buster questionnaires. So,
Yeah, because they're in 30 days. Yeah, I
yes.
mean, at 30 days, it should be education. This is what recovery looks like all the stuff I just laid out, but in a more detailed way. Is he doing it? How is your body responding, betrayed partner? Like, are you sleeping? Are you eating? What do you need to feel safe? What are the promises and commitments you're going to be making if you are lying again or if you relapse again? Are you going to go to treatment this time? How many meetings are you going to? What are you talking about in these meetings? You're having arguments and discussions in the daily, day-to-day crisis that you're living in. That's the stuff that's coming in. Um, if it's like emotional needs, like, someone stating, well, when you start shattering dishes in the kitchen, it scares me. Sure, these are crisis things that we can talk about in the moment about managing triggers and things like that. But again, we're not talking about marital issues or stuff that happened in our childhood. It's like this is the crisis and we're managing the crisis and we are reinforcing what our individual therapists are telling us to do to manage our safety, our trauma, our recovery, our sobriety.
Yes, and when people reach out and they say, I need a couples therapist, my first thing is talk to your individual therapist. And often it's like, we don't have individual therapists. And we're like, well, then let's
No.
start with that because the coupleship is the client in a couples relationship, not either of you. And and at this point, what is recommended for each of you is so radically different. Support for partners. This is traumatic. Accountability, responsibility, working through that shame. That's, so completely different modalities, for each of you. And, trying to do couples therapy often puts the burden feeling like it's on the partner of like, I did something to cause all of this. No, so yeah, again, KristinSnowden.com or TAMI at seekingintegrity.com. We'll do our best to help. Thank you as always. We're sorry we're not going to get to the rest of the questions, but guess what? Come back. She's here every odd month. So that means she'll be back
Yes.
in May. So
And just
thank
a
you.
reminder, I
Oh,
still
yeah.
have 3 to 4 spots in that Betrayed Partners group that's starting on Tuesday. So you can go to kristinsnowden.com, live workshops, and learn more about these betrayed partners. There's 4 weeks. Again, just help with crisis management, education, support, giving and offering support, and expert guidance. So I
Well,
hope
and
you
even if
join.
you're like if you're a year and a half in this, but somebody hasn't been doing any of the work, guess what? You're still in crisis. So
Yeah,
don't let that oh, I'm too far down the road. If you're feeling like you're in crisis, you're in crisis. So
yeah.
so
Join us.
consider
There's a
that.
couple
Yeah.
spots left. Would love to have you. So.
I hope it fills today. So all right. Thank you. Bye everyone.